Hello, this week's subject is all about temperature and humidity in clean rooms. Let's go straight to it. Tell you what, it's a bit nippy. Well, we're all obsessed with temperature and sometimes humidity, but this has an important role in the clean room context. So this is going to be the subject of this week's 5-minute video. So let's get to it. Okay, so we're going to be looking at temperature and humidity control in the clean room environment. Okay, before we do that, let's just look at the key risk factor. The key risk factor is the amount of skin that we shed, and as we've learned in previous videos, that about 10% of these bits of skin matter, skin detritus, are carrying microorganisms, and around 4 microorganisms per little bit of skin matter. And medics refer to this as desquamation, quite a strange squelchy word, but we're releasing about 0.03 to 0.09 grams of skin cells every hour, or that's about 30 to 40,000 skin cells per hour. It sounds a lot, but when you think that the human body contains 1.6 trillion cells of skin on the epidermidis, then perhaps that isn't so much. And this is taking place on the outer layer of the skin, what's called the epidermis, and this happens because of the release of the skin cells, which are made of keratin. And the way that skin cells are formed is that they're formed in a few layers down in the skin, and as they work their way upwards, they're pushing the outer layers of the skin off in the form of flakes. And skin makes up about 16% of our body weight, and over the course of our lifetime we will shed about 35 kilograms of skin, so that's quite a lot. And then again, as we said before, most of the dust floating around your house, and certainly my house, is going to be from dust from skin. And some people shed a little bit more than others, as I say, scratching myself as I see the photo, and this can be due to people who have a certain bacterium in high numbers on their skin called Staphylococcus aureus, where the release of a toxin promotes excessive skin shedding. And also if you've got wounds, as the wound heals, some people have different skin conditions, or sunburn can cause excess skin, as can dandruff, and dandruff is partly caused by a fungus in the scalp called Malsesia that's very, very difficult to get rid of. And then some people are sensitive to different materials and creams and ointments and forms of clothing and so on. But there are other factors that influence all of this, and this is what scientists who like to come up with grandiose words might call abiotic factors. That means not relating to the biology of the human body. And these are temperature, humidity, levels of activity, airflow, clothing, and the effects of radiation, should that be like sunlight, for example. And there's even quite convoluted concepts and equations for the level of human comfort. There's one on the slide there. We're not going to worry about all of that. We're going to look at these other factors, mostly temperature, humidity, but we shouldn't get away from the fact that these are all related. So airflow, for example, also influences temperature. Temperature influences airflow. Now, people have different comfort levels, and if you take the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, I think it was 1837 that was first written, and Goldilocks goes in and tries 3 different bowls of porridge, and they appeal to different people for different levels of temperature. And I've just put some porridge that I've made up this morning. I bet you're salivating and wanting to have your breakfast as you look at that delicious concoction. Okay, so let's get on to the nitty gritty. So with temperature, if the temperature is high, it will lead to sweating. And as the sweat evaporates, it transfers energy to the environment, and that will reduce the integrity of the clean room suit. If the temperature is too low, then it's uncomfortable, and that might lead us to shed perhaps a tendency to rush. So we don't want extremes of temperature. And with humidity, if the humidity becomes too low, then the skin becomes drier and scalier. That leads to more shedding. It also changes the electrostatic charge within the clean room, so it means that particles are drawn to surfaces at a faster rate. If the humidity is too high, when it's matched with an increase in temperature, that will lead to excessive perspiration. So we've got the sweating again, and then we're compromising the integrity of the clean room gown. And also this happens because as the sweat evaporates, it leaves the skin that's moist. It can also mean that our skin can become prone to rashes, and it also creates a more suitable environment for microorganisms, because a lot of microorganisms need water sources. So particularly if there was to be condensation forming, that would be really, really bad within the clean room environment. And also it's horrible, you know, it feels oppressive. But we also need to think of temperature, humidity as in combination with each other, because as the air temperature increases, the air can hold more water molecules, and humidity then it alters in a different direction. So this means that, let's say the temperature is 29 degrees, but there's very low humidity. It actually feels like 26, as we know when we go on holiday to certain countries. But if the humidity is high, let's say it's up to 80%, then that same 29 degrees suddenly feels like 36 degrees, as often is the case in many British summers. So that's why it kind of feels a bit bleh. And the body reacts to these conditions, but it is a little bit more complicated than that, because there are variations with airflow rates that need to be taken into account for good clean room design. And then this leads to contamination control risks, and we can see a picture there of myself with Claire Levy when we were in the clean rooms last summer, and this can create you know, shedding factors, uncomfortable factors, and all sorts of nastiness. So what are the optimal conditions? Well, generally humidity between 30 to 50% is ideal. That is a comfortable state. And if you go beyond 65 to 70 degrees, that becomes very uncomfortable for people, and then also causes some of these problems to do with the shedding and sweating that we've mentioned. Temperature, ideally, in relation to those humidity values, is 16 to 22 degrees, particularly within the clean room environment. Now, legally in the UK, you can't work in temperatures below 14 degrees, and for safety it's always recommended you don't work in temperatures above 32 degrees, but really you're targeting this kind of cooler 16 to 22 degree temperature, which is consummate with the slow, careful movements that everybody undertakes within the clean room. And air handling units attempt to reach this by controlling water flow variations and also airflow rates, and all those in combination form the ideal conditions. Okay, so that brings this presentation to an end. It emphasises why temperature, humidity are. So in other words, you don't want to be too cold and you don't want to be too warm. You want to be just right. And you could even say that's being cool, just like me. So until next time, have a great rest of the day, and I'll be back with you, Tim Sandle, with another video soon. Cheerio.